because in the end of the day, anyone doing a production, they do not want drama with their cast and crew, because that's just going to hurt the overall production.
And I will say, like, you know, so I've been in community theater in this area. I've also, so going back to like high school, like I moved to Oregon. So for like in my 20s, I was just bouncing back and forth. I came down for a year, went up for 2, came back down, went back up. And during that time, I was always acting. So if I was up there, I would, you know, there's little theaters. There's always a little, every town has a little community theater.
A little theater, you know? Somewhere.
And if you, I mean, even slightly interested, it is like honestly the lowest stakes, you know, there's not a lot of pressure. I mean, yes, you want to be good. You want the show to be good.
Of course.
But like usually the smaller theaters are great because like the people that come, I mean, they're on your side.
100%.
They just want to come and be entertained. You know, whether it's with a drama, they want to feel something, or they want to laugh, or they want like this mystery that, you know, whatever it is, you know, they're coming to be entertained. So they're going to give you all the like leeway and all the benefits of that, you know. And so it's a great way to start, because you also, you know, on that, being able to get along with people is like when you do community theater, you're acting with the community.
Period.
So the other people, you're not going to be in a cast where everybody thinks the same way.
It's
impossible. You're not. And you have to be able to, you don't have to, you know, think the same, but you have to be able to accept, you know, you have to find common ground, whatever that is. For me, I always, you know, if I know that like the other people are just not really, you know, I don't want to get into politics with these people or religion with these people.
2 things you don't ever want to get into.
I don't want to. I'll always just bring it back to food. Like that's one thing that almost everybody can talk about is like, oh man, did you try this new place just opened?
That part.
You know, like, you know, that food has no, you know, no religion, no politics.
Everyone just wants to eat. Yeah, that part.
You know.
Unless you're Chick-fil-A, then you guys are, you know.
Well,
I just joke. But Chick-fil-A's fire though. That's why the line's there.
Yeah, it's, you know, I honestly, when it comes to Chick-fil-A,
Go ahead.
Chick-fil-A and In-N-Out.
Go ahead.
I'm getting to a point where like, is it
worth it?
Worth 20 minutes out of like wherever I'm going when I make the decision, you know, like, man, it sounds good. To the time I have my food, it's usually about 20 minutes.
Till you get it. Wow.
I could have got something almost as good over at Baker's in like 5 minutes.
That part.
But you know, if that could all be edited out.
We're not editing nothing. It's basically like marriage. You know, once you commit, You're there. You're there. Like I'm online, I can't reverse. So hey, I guess, you know.
Exactly.
You know. So you know, you talked about when you audition, some people already know the roles, they can listen to it, et cetera, et cetera. You know, so many films. I mean, so many scenes and plays. So what do you find more interesting? Doing a play or a scene or a character that you've already seen and known, or something brand new that you don't even know? You're the first person to touch it, basically.
Definitely, I would say definitely the latter. I mean, yes, there are obviously dream roles. I mean, every actor has roles that they would just love to play, that everybody knows, you know. But I think even more than that, you know, I've loved the things that I've gotten into that I didn't know about, you know, before. And I like that too, because, you know, like I said, these dream roles, well, you had to have seen somebody play that role to even know about it.
Yeah, to even make it a dream role.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
rarely. And this is for me. I mean,
Go ahead.
other people are different, but for me, I find it really hard to read through a play and really see it. I mean, I can kind of see it,
Okay.
but like once I see it, or even like at a table read,
Mm-hmm.
you know, usually when you get into a play, the very first rehearsal is just everybody sits around with their script and their particular part, and everybody just reads. Once that happens, I can like really see like a full show,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And the stuff that I've come into where until the table read, I didn't even know exactly where this character, like, how does he react to that? Because how does that character say this to him?
Got you.
I mean, yeah,
Yep.
it says I say this, but like,
How is that
is it
actor or
like
actress
this?
doing it? Yeah.
Or is it like this? You know, and that to me, because it's a blank slate, because like I'm going into it, you know, and again, not having seen somebody else do it.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, well, that person did it like this. Like, it doesn't even matter. This is how I think, you know.
It should go.
You know, and
Yeah.
if the director, like, you know, kind of steers it this way and that, like, oh, yeah, I can see that. Because, again, I know what my part is, you know, and if the director thinks it's a little bit this way, you know, it's up to me to, like, fit my thinking of the character into why he made that decision instead of what I was thinking, which, you know, is a challenge, but, you know, it's something that, like, obviously you can do it. But yeah, those things also have felt more rewarding at the end, you know.
Okay.
Because I've also done like a lot of Shakespeare.
What do you mean more rewarding at the end?
So like, you know, if I do a character that like is really well known,
Okay.
right? Like, you know, like Shakespeare, you usually do, you know, rarely do you ever see Shakespeare, especially nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
done like just like Shakespeare, you know, in, for lack of a better word, like tights,
Yeah.
and big plumes in the hat, or
1800s
stuff like
Europe.
that. Yeah, usually if you're doing it, there's a take.
Got you.
You know, and it's different. But more or less, the characterizations kind of stay the same.
Yeah.
Right? So if I was to like, whatever you put it in, if I was, and I'm way too old, but I'm just using this example because everybody knows Romeo.
Got you.
Right? You know Romeo.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's post-apocalyptic or it's gangsters in the 20s,
Got you.
that character is going to be the same.
Like the Leonardo DiCaprio one.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's lonely hearted. He's like, you know, and playing that would be great, you know, and like, but at the end, like when it's over, all I'm going to be like, I could play it the best ever,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's only going to be compared to the other people that have done it.
Got you. Who played the role.
Right.
Okay.
And even in doing it, I can make it all day, you know, this is my interpretation of it.
Yeah.
But that's BS. Like, no matter what, my interpretation of it is influenced by something that I've seen
100%.
before.
Yeah, 100%.
It can't be. So like when it's something that I have no source to pull from. No reference.
Yeah.
And I have done this. I think probably the biggest example of that for me is Peter and the Starcatcher.
Okay.
Which is a show that kind of it's a show about like one way in which Peter Pan could have invented Neverland.
Oh, interesting.
And so it's like
Interesting.
these orphans that are being taken from England, and it's all about imagination. But they shipwreck on this island, and I played like 6 different parts.
Okay. In the same production?
In the same production.
Okay.
Yes, I was this mean bastard with like a whip that owned the children, that sold them to this boat that was taking them, like to be slaves, basically.
It's got to be a mind fuck to be 6 different roles in the same production.
It was so it was so great though, because again, I
Okay.
knew nothing about it.
Okay. Okay.
And it's a show too in which the cast does a lot. Like there's a scene in which the orphans have like kind of escaped from their like little prison within the boat, and they're going through like the hallways and galleys of the boats, and
Okay.
the actors are like standing on stage, and when they go through, oh, like here's a door, they like open it, like they open an actor, like an actor kind of swings and he's
Ah,
playing the door,
interesting.
so
Interesting.
everything
Cool
in it
direction.
is, there's like a lot of, you have to use imagination within the, like,
The production.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
there's so many
awesome.
little things like that. And once they got to the island, I played King Prawn. uh, you know s- uh, I played a guy on a boat called Sanchez. uh, but like in each one had like a different character,
Of
and
course. Of
yes,
course.
so like it was one of those things too where that was a show where at the end of each show I was just like exhausted.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah.
But there is like, so if you ever watch this, Carrie, I'm sorry for the anecdote I'm about to share. However,
You hear that voice change?
so this particular uh, summer, I was doing repertory theater, and I took on an extra show. So I was in 3 shows, which meant for pretty much 4 months, I was like at the theater or at work almost every day of the week
Gotcha.
and all weekends. And it was just, it made for a struggle.
Gotcha.
And
Outside of the theater.
yes.
Hmm.
And so it took a while for Carrie to come and see this particular show, but when she did, by the end of it, like it's one of those shows that has so much imagination and is so uh, like it speaks to you emotionally,
Hmm.
that she was crying by the end of it.
Gotcha.
And like, but then that was her seeing it for the first time. But that was one of the only shows, or one of the few shows, that I felt at the end of it like the first time. Like the first time we got to the end of the end, it's a show that I didn't fully understand.
Okay.
Like until the end of the first show, I was like, "Oh shit! I
Oh.
get all of it. I get why they're doing this. I get why we're do. I totally did not get the show
Hmm.
until we opened.
Light bulb.
Until I saw the whole thing with the lights, with the sound, with like everybody doing their own part.
Wow.
Like I was like, wow. And every night it was just so rewarding. Like I said,
Mm.
you know.
Gotcha. Carrie's is his wife, by the way, if you guys were
Okay.
wondering. But she loved it.
She did, yeah. She,
Uh,
like I said, she was in tears. She like, and I think she might have came to actually the last performance,
awesome.
and she was like, "Oh man, the fact that she wished she wouldn't have waited so she could have at least seen it one more time."
Gotcha.
You
So
know?
it's really important as a director to kind of already have a vision of this
Yes.
stuff
Yeah.
to especially for that. And so we've talked a lot about you working in theater, right? So what's better for you, or what do you prefer, theater or film, and why?
Um. Well, I definitely have done more theater.
Of course.
Um. I so I'm more comfortable in it. However, I like film in the ability to get so much of what you want.
Can you explain?
Um, yes. So like in theater, you rehearse, and then when you go out, you know, things things never go 100% the way they're supposed to. You know, so each performance of any show, there's always something that somebody does that is just slightly off. Like
Got you.
there's
A
never
little different.
there's never everybody is 100% right on every single time.
Got you. People are not robots.
It's always one person's night.
Got you.
And sometimes that's even like backstage, a door won't open or some, you know what I mean? There's always something, always. I mean, with live theater, there's always one thing that nobody counted on that just changes it. And it doesn't mean it like ruins the whole thing, or it doesn't mean it just changes it. And it's not necessarily what the director or the producer wanted. Whereas like with film, you can do it as many times until you get exactly what you want.
Yeah.
You know?
Or what the director wants.
With the director, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like, although like for me, I would say theater only in that when you're in the theater, there's definitely downtime.
Okay.
But even with downtime,
it's back to the hang.
It's back to the hang.
Okay.
Only in film, and also, like I've only done like shorts.
Okay.
So when it wasn't my time, I was alone, but they were working with everybody else, or like with enough of the people, or they're like the other people on set just weren't around, to where it was a lot of downtime just by like myself,
Gotcha.
So it just wasn't.
Gotcha.
And I'm sure if I was on a bigger set or I was doing something more, there would be like, more or less more to do during that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do enjoy though too, like the times that I have been on sets, being able to do the line a number of times for like different angles, so that like, you have the ability to try in the moment different inflections or different ways or different reactions, where like oftentimes you can find something right then and there that was even better than like the 6 takes that you had already done.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit, that's the way I want this to go.
Yeah.
Which is, great, which also kind of leads into like my favorite thing overall, which is improv.
Mm-hmm.
And
we'll definitely get into that.
well, just because like, like.
So was it film or was it a theater?
I'd have to stick with theater.
Okay.
And hopefully that will change, in that like, in the coming years I can do enough on film to get more comfortable with it.
Gotcha.
And I would hope also, because that's a I sit here and tell stories about theater, which I have, for we could be here for weeks.
Talking about theater stories.
Gotcha. But like that's it. It's just my memories. Whereas like
Gotcha.
film, you could do something really great and that's there forever. Which is like that's the one thing that you cannot. That's the thing that kind of trumps film over theater. Like that will always. Be like the final nail, or like the mic drop is just that it lasts.
Gotcha.
You can always go back to it. It doesn't change. It's like your favorite movies. They'll make you feel the same way because
every time.
They never change. It's
Gotcha.
always what it's supposed to be. Whatever that is what it was supposed to be.
For me, that movie's Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's the right one? Yeah.
Turbo Man.
Yeah. So theater for you because you probably spent the most time in it, have the most memories with it.
Yeah.
Right? So, they say, and I believe it because you're talking about like, every day is a different day, right?
Yeah.
So it makes sense that the best actors come from theater because you have to be ready and on point no matter what.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that the best actors usually have a theater background, And as an actor, is there... Okay, let me put it this way. How do you feel about doing intimate scenes?
So I've done I've done a number of kisses.
Okay.
I've maybe like half a dozen to a dozen kisses here and there on stage. And it actually, and I've had one intimate scene, but it was, again, it was made comical. Like it was because it was in Biloxi Blues.
Okay.
So it was the scene itself was, sorry.
No, you're good. You're totally fine.
The scene itself was written to be a comical scene. And then I think I've done at least two that had no comedic value. It was
straightforward.
It was a straight two. I had to have two separate kisses in Grapes of Wrath, which is just it is serious to a fault. I mean, there is no humor in that show at all. And it's awkward. That's the probably the best word to describe it is awkward.
Okay.
Because it's either you're meeting somebody that you've never worked with before, and you have a couple weeks to get comfortable enough to have a realistic kiss. And that is the part for me that always was the hardest part.
Yeah.
And the part that made it the most awkward is like I'm also always for me personally, and I think it goes for most normal thinking males, is like your female counterpart is a female. She's probably been hit on our life. She's probably been, and here, like, yes, we're supposed to kiss. And it's like the main thing that that both of you want is for the audience to believe in this kiss.
It has to be believable.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it's always, like I said, somebody that you're just meeting, you've never worked with before, or somebody you've done a ton of plays, their boyfriend or husband.
Okay.
You're like,
too close to home.
Yeah. Like, you afterwards, you're probably going to go out with some other friends, it's a friend of yours that, you would never be in this situation together.
Yeah.
Just out of respect, and that you just don't see each other that way, or you're trying to meet somebody and within a couple weeks have a connection that will,
translate
to reality.
Yeah.
So like, and it's super creepy to be like, we should probably practice this.
Please, in the dark.
Yeah. But I've always, when I know it's coming, I've always, taken time to like, go aside for like an hour or so and just, what are you into? What do you know?
Yep.
Get some kind of connection on just like a friendly basis. But basically all that's to be said is like, because you don't want to like rehearse it and practice it,
Facts.
You're like, you have to do some of it because you don't want, when it's go time, and there is like a whole audience, and you don't want that to be the first time, and just that like, okay, how am I going to hold this person? How long does this kiss need to be? How, am I going her upper lip between mine? Is this...
Wow, thinking that deep. Okay.
Well, yeah, because like, the last thing you want to be intimate. Like these two characters are at a point where the characters want to express through physical contact how much I care about you. Right?
Yep.
You want that to come along. You want people to be like, I want to be kissed like that. I want to connect with somebody like that.
Okay.
And that the other person like they're on stage. They audition for this, so
Facts.
they want the same thing. They want the same reaction,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And even though you're coming at it like that, it's still hard, you know. Especially the more time marches on, the more we're aware of wanting to be respectful, you know.
Got you.
So
Got
it's
you.
like
Got you.
you know, so that is just it's always, each one is individual. Like each intimate scene is its own thing and has its own obstacles
Definitely to go over.
to you know, to deal with. Everyone, I will say, I haven't had one that wasn't awkward.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. It's I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I had a content creator come on and she was talking about how the intimate scenes are like her hardest scenes, and I told her usually what happens, like, and you said it, like backstage or whatever off, and usually I hear it from the guy's perspective, which you just said, they'll try to make the girl comfortable around him, get to know them more personal, so that way she can be more relaxed and comfortable, because all, like you said, throughout her whole life she's probably been hit on and blah blah blah, and you know, we may be acting, but she needs to be comfortable. You know, and so I'm glad you kind of like help like stamp and certify that saying, you know, like kind of make them feel comfortable for this, you know. And you know, speaking of roles, like, are there any roles that you wouldn't do?
So, like, again, I just turned 47. So, about 20 years ago,
Age is not a number.
well, I would have, but like that's 47 years of life.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
20 years ago, I would have answered that like, as before you even had it out, I would have said no. I would do anything. You know, because again, I had that hunger as well.
Gotcha.
But like, I would like at this point, like I wouldn't play like, you know, I wouldn't play like a huge, like a open, like racist, like a really like hateful like person. Even like, you know, stories have to be told about those people.
So no neo-Nazi for you.
Yeah, but I wouldn't, like, I agree that maybe that story needs to be told.
Yeah.
But I don't have to be that character.
Got you.
Because
it's not you.
I wouldn't want to, for whatever hours I was on that set or, you know, part of that production, I wouldn't want to envelop those ideas within myself. You know what I mean? I wouldn't want to, even if I know it's make believe, I know that's not, like, I wouldn't want to go into, just like I probably also wouldn't I wouldn't be like a domestic abuser.
Gotcha.
Like, you know, I wouldn't play the part of somebody that's like beating his girlfriend or his wife, you know. Only because I wouldn't want to you know, show up and have to get into that headspace even, you know, for like a couple hours while I deliver these lines. Or, you know, and again, if I was to have that role, right?
Yeah.
If I was to be given that role, just like anything else, I would want, the effect of what I'm doing is I would want to make it appear that, you know, I am beating this woman.
Yeah,
you know,
as real as possible.
And so I would have to get into a space of like, I hate this person, or I want this person to feel pain, and I don't want to have to get into that.
Gotcha.
For me, you know. So I, you know, and there's plenty of parts out there, and there's plenty of actors that have no problem with that. They can separate themselves, or coming to find out more and more, maybe they aren't separating themselves.
Maybe they're more in tune to that.
Yeah.
You know, you said something very, and I always kind of believe this, which is, and I think you kind of touched a little bit about it. So do you believe that when you play certain characters in certain roles, that you kind of adapt some of those characteristics from these roles and characters?
I definitely think so. And I definitely think also, well, I'll just speak for me, because I can't speak for anybody else. But for me, it's also definitely this I don't know if severity is the word, but the degree to which I will take on a character, because I'm sorry, I've definitely had characters where like I'm ensemble, or like I come on and come off and I say a couple things.
Yeah.
That I'm not gonna like live with too much. But again, going like Carrie will tell you, if there's a role where I do like it's a lead role, I have a lot of dialogue, especially if I have a lot of dialogue. I'm constantly going over it, and if I'm constantly going over dialogue in my head, like I will have to get the inflection of however I'm delivering the dialogue.
Yes, sir.
So I'll have to, even in a small way, get into the headspace of the character, and like in those certain times, yes, I'll like if the character's kind of a jerk, I'll be kind of a jerk at home.
Got you.
Jay, like it definitely. Yeah, Carrie can contest to that too.
Got you.
But yeah, there's roles like even going back to Peter and the Starcatcher, like playing multiple roles.
Exactly. Yep.
There were like the first role of the guy who owns, there was only like 3 lines, but there was a certain slouch I had. There was a very gravelly way that like, in just even the gravel way that I chose to speak for that particular role. Like 6 different characters, that one will always stand out because like I said it in a way, and the things that I was saying, just for that, like that guy had like a very rich backstory that I had in my head for him. I mean, he was like, selling children. I mean, there's a special place in hell for like this particular guy.
Yeah.
And like it had to come out and like everything that he was saying.
Got you.
So yeah, definitely. I mean, it depends on the role, but there's definitely ones that are harder to shake once you're like at home.
Got you. Like residuals basically left in you. So obviously we know there's certain types of roles, and as you said, things are different, as you get older. But do you still have dream roles that you would like to play? Or have?
Yes. I definitely I love Neil Simon.
Can you tell people who may not know who that is?
Neil Simon wrote Odd Couple, Barefoot in the Park. He's a mostly comedic writer. He wrote a lot of plays. I believe late 70s, early 80s maybe, is when he had like the majority of his popularity. But he writes like the dialogue itself is just always, it's very quick. It's always very funny. And like, there'll be a monologue or there'll be 2 people talking and they're almost talking on top of each other.
Wow.
But it's like, it's joke upon joke with just enough time to stop laughing before the next joke hits you. Like it's that kind of like real witty, sharp humor that is like, that I love. Like that, again, it goes back to like, my favorite times on stage is saying something and hearing people laugh. Yeah. Like, that is like what keeps me doing it,
Gotcha. It's like fuel to the fire.
Yeah. So his stuff, that just about anything that he's done, like a good part, like a good lead role in a Neil Simon play would be like, that would be the dream.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Well, I mean, I've had a few, but it was like the lesser known, like Fools. I was the lead in that, which is basically about a town in Russia that believes that the whole town believes they're cursed to be dumb.
That's awesome.
A teacher comes in.
That's awesome.
I played the teacher to try to teach them. and basically end up breaking the curse.
Oh, that's awesome. That is such an awesome man. I got to check out more of his stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, honestly, I think comedy, that's just my personal take. I think comedy is the hardest thing to write and also the hardest thing to deliver.
Oh, yeah. I fully agree. I wish, I mean, it's such a famous quote. I know that somebody could look it up.
Yeah.
But they say like making people cry is easy.
Okay.
Making them laugh is the hardest thing.
Amen.
Because everybody has something different that they laugh at.
Facts.
And it's you're never gonna write for everybody. Like when it comes to comedy, there's not like one thing that makes everybody laugh.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to get those,
Got
to
you.
know where it is. And yeah, a lot of it has to do with delivery for sure.
Yeah. I think there's just specific people or certain people that can kind of like break through, like mass writing. Like, you guys can make fun of me about this, but I fucking love the Golden Girls. I barely found out about this like maybe 2 years ago. And when I was a kid, I thought it was the most dumbest show ever. Now as an adult, I'm watching it and I'm like, the writing is amazing, the acting is amazing, and the directing is amazing. And it's just, for me, it's like it's like one of my top 5 shows.
Yeah. Well,
You know what I mean?
yeah, like, no, I know exactly what you mean. I love the Golden Girls. And I think too, like going with everything we've been talking about is it's very well written, but you also have 4 women that can deliver like a punchline and can like 4 distinct personalities.
Facts. Ooh.
But like they all 4, like the actresses themselves have such a command on delivery that it's genius.
Yeah.
Like just going back to what we were saying about comedy for everybody, like before it wasn't the time, but for whatever reason it hits you right now.
Yeah, I'm old enough to understand.
Yeah, whereas the young people would still watch and be bored to tears, but because it's not for them yet.
Yeah, I like that.
And there's so many things that I used to think was funny that it's almost hard to watch now. I was talking to somebody just the other day, like the movie Arthur. I don't know if you're familiar.
No.
But it's
about King Arthur?
No.
Okay.
It's Dudley Moore. It takes place in the 80s, New York, and he's basically old money. And his parents are upset that he hasn't settled down, and he's constantly in the papers because he's drunk and doing something. So
yes.
and that's the thing is like, so he's a drunk, and his parents basically tell him he has to marry this other prominent family, the daughter from this other prominent family.
Yeah. Keep that money up.
Yeah, and it's basically, that's just it. He meets somebody else. They fall in love. Liza Minnelli.
Oh, okay.
They fall in love, and it's kind of like true love versus like the money, but the movie itself is like one of those where you have to listen to every line.
Okay, wow.
Because I mean, no other movie. Every line is either a setup or a punchline.
Oh.
It's like constant.
Gotcha.
I mean, the very first thing is like a limo pulls up to 2 hookers, and he's like, how much? Like that's the first line is like, how much?
I love it.
And there's like $100 an hour, and he's like,
for both.
Oh, what time do you get off? Like, it's
awesome.
Stuff like that. He's like, okay, I'll give you $200, but you'll have to Simonize my car. I mean, this is the first 2 lines of the whole thing, and that's all it is just joke, and like I loved it, right? I thought it was hilarious, and it's a very funny movie. But like now, when I watch it, I cannot, like, because in my life I've had a number of people that for their personal lives could not handle narcotics or alcohol. And I mean, a couple of the people and one very, very good friend, really, alcohol kind of turned his life to shambles. And it's hard to watch a lighthearted take on alcoholism, on somebody being drunk and making jokes, and it's just something for me personally that the severity of the disease of alcoholism I cannot comfortably laugh at, just in my life, and that's just because of the of certain things that have happened in my life. And it's nothing against the movie. I mean, for its time, it was a great movie. For a lot of my life, I thought it was a great movie, and I still think it deserves whatever accolades it had. It's just me personally, I can't watch it, just because of what my life.
So basically, that movie Arthur is no longer funny because of the life experiences that you've had.
Yeah, well, I mean, like honestly, it's stuff I used to laugh at, so I can still see the humor, but like in between that, when I see the struggle of like just of him being drunk, like his almost every scene in the movie he's drunk and like navigating through like this or that, navigating through meeting the woman that he's supposed to marry, like her dad, and he's of course drunk,
Yes.
And seeing like the other people in his family, like you should really stop drinking, you should really like, and it's always handled like so he goes out to dinner with the woman he's supposed to marry.
Yes.
And she's like, a real woman could stop you from drinking. And he's like, well, it'd have to be a really big woman. And it's funny.
Yeah.
Like it's funny, and I can see that it's funny, but like that's the thing too, is like, no, this person is telling you need help.
Yeah.
This person is sitting here trying to like help you. And it's a joke. And for the movie, it's a joke. And I get it but like, I can't sit there and, I'm on her side.
Yeah.
She's meant to be kind of a stick in the mud and a stiff and like,
All that
but I'm
stuff.
on her side that like, yeah, you probably have a much more fulfilling life.
Definitely.
If you didn't drink as much and you like, you mates, and that it's just life experiences have kind of made that
shift.
I can't.
You can't look at it lighthearted anymore.
Exact. That's the perfect way to put it.
Yeah, and so we're definitely gonna have to get you back on the pod again and talk some more, because I know there's definitely some more stuff we want to talk about. But there's a thing I like to ask everybody that comes on the podcast, right? And that is, and luckily for you, you're gonna be asked it twice. You're gonna be asked it twice, and that is, what do you see, or what would you like your empire to look like?
I would love for my empire, because I am so I hold comedy in such a high regard, like in my life, in my choice of how I'd like to be entertained. I just think that like laughter is so beneficial. I think when people are and it doesn't have to be like crying, laughing, even something that like makes you chuckle, like a silly little dad joke that like you're more sighing than laughing, but still it those things, they make you pause, they make you they lift your heart. Even if it's for a moment, even if it's, oh, come on, for that moment, your spirit was lifted, and so my empire, I feel, is colorful, with a lot of laughter, and I don't believe in utopias, but for my empire, if you're not laughing and you don't have something that you can laugh with another common person, in my empire, it's a law that even if you can't laugh with that person because of disagreements, there's always acceptance.
I like that.
I think acceptance is that's the gold. That like, there's a lot of people. Oh, let people be. I think if everybody could just accept, you don't have to agree, but accept is the foundation for, I think, everything. Is acceptance.
At least tolerate.
Yes. Yeah.
Gotcha. And I like to say that laughter is like medicine for the soul. Like
Mm-hmm.
it just like charges your body up or your spirit up when you get to laugh.
I completely agree.
You know,